these blocks, these skirt patterns can be modified to the length you want, be it mini, midi, or maxi. That's the full length. Welcome to the skirt making class. We are going to draft our patterns. Let's begin. We're going to start first with all the horizontal measurements we need. The top of this paper is going to be the waistline, and the bottom will be the length of my skirt. So let me measure from here all the way, 36 inches. The horizontal measurements we need are hip line and the knee line. Hip line ranges between 8 to 10 inches depending on how tall or short you are. The hip line I'll be using for this pattern is 9 inches. The next measurement will be the knee line. For this pattern that we're making, I'm using a knee line of 18 inches. This measurement can be gotten directly on your body. We are then going to go to the top of the paper and start putting in the measurements. These measurements should have been taken on your body or on your client's body. The waist measurement we're going to be using for this skirt pattern is 35 inches, and you divide 35 inches by 4. That will be 8.75 inches. That's 8 3/4. I mark that point. Your skirts usually need to have a dart. The dart we'll use is 1 inch. And then the sewing allowance we're going to put on this pattern, 1 inch as well. So that's what we'll have right there at the top. You're going to go to the hip line now and impute your hip measurement. The hip measurement we are working with is 44 inches. I'll divide that by 4, 11 right here. And then I add 1 inch for the sewing allowance. Now on the knee line, I will mark the same measurement I have right on the hip line. Let's have that measurement taken. 12 inches. I'll come to the knee line and mark 12 inches. We are doing a straight skirt block first of all. So 12 inches here, 12 inches here. And then I'll come to the bottom and mark 12 inches as well. Awesome. We can connect this line. I want us to also remember that we have our sewing allowance of 1 inch already plotted with the pattern. So this part is the center front, and when you'll be cutting this, it's going to be on fold. This is the straight block. Let me write it. For the dart, you are going to be using your bust point to bust point measurement. That's bust point apex to bust point apex measurement to impute where your dart will be. Okay, for me it's 8 inches, and then when you divide 8 inches by 2, you'll be having 4 inches. I'm gonna mark that 4 inches. I'm gonna measure about 6 inches below and still mark 4 inches because the length of the dart is 6 inches. Okay, and then where the dart begins from is 4 inches, such that when you sew it and open it up, it's going to be like 8 inches back. Now from those 4 inches, you're going to be measuring ½ inch on both sides, ½ inch here and ½ inch here, because you're sewing a dart. Right, let's join up the points, this to this, this to this, this to this. The next measurement we need is for the front. We need to reduce the waist because of our tummy in the front. So we're going to be measuring half an inch below, and then you're going to use your curved ruler to connect that half-inch mark to that waist line, that side seam waist there. So this part will be chopped off. You chop it off. So we have successfully completed the straight skirt block for the front. The only variation for the back will be your zipper allowance at the back, and this part is not chopped off. This part goes up to the top. For the back, we're going to draw in the zipper allowance first. Every other thing remains the same. Imputing the lines, the hip line and the knee line. Now all measurements will be taken from the zipper allowance line, not from the edge. Okay, so we use the waist measurement 8.75, 1 inch for the dart, 1 inch for the sewing allowance. On the hip, 11 inches for quarter of the hip circumference, then 1 inch for the sewing allowance. And then we mark that same measurement, which is 12 inches in total here. And at the hem, we also did a measurement of 12 inches. Connect all these points. Then we can put in the dart 4 inches, then measure about 6 inches below, do another 4 inches. We're going to split the dart leg ½ inch on both sides, and we will connect all those points. Center back, and this is the back pattern. At the zipper area at the back there, what we're going to do is we need to eliminate that part that does not sit on the, like on the back area, the bum area. How do you do that? You're going to be measuring about ½ inch this way, ½ inch towards the dart, and connect that ½ inch back to this hip line here, this point here. So that way you have eliminated the part that doesn't sit well, especially when you are making a pencil skirt, something that is closely fitted to the body. Okay, that's like the snatch on a skirt. You do snatches on skirt as well. So I just want to redraw my sewing allowance, or my zipper allowance, I mean. I've redrawn my zipper allowance, so this part will be chopped off. All right, so the back is actually completed. We want to draft other block variations. We'll go back to our front body, our front pattern. The first skirt variation is going to be the pencil skirt. When you're going to be doing the pencil skirt, all you're going to do is measure 2 inches from the hem. Okay, because it tapers in. Don't measure 2 inch on the knee, no, on the hem. Okay, so this is the point here. I'm going to use another color of marker to connect it. Now the connection starts from the hip line and stops at that 2 inch mark. So I'll place my ruler this way and then draw a straight line. This is your pencil skirt block. Okay, so that's what you trace out, or that's what you do. Measure 2 inches from the hem. So if you were doing a short skirt, if you're doing something that is short up onto the knee, you're going to measure about an inch, or if you still want it very, very tapered, you can do 2 inches there. But that way, you need enough slit so that you're able to move properly. Okay, so this is the pencil skirt block variation. Now if you're doing the pencil skirt block for the back, the pencil skirt block for the back, what you're going to do is split that 2 inches tapering. You're going to use 1 inch on the side back, that's the side seam at the back, and 1 inch at the zipper allowance at the back. So 1 inch here, 1 inch here, right? So that's how you taper it in. You don't do the whole 2 inches on one side. So you come back to the hem, measure 1 inch, and you go to the zipper allowance and you do your 1 inch. These connections will be done from the hip line to that mark we have. So I'll write it there. Pencil skirt block. And then for this as well, this is also the pencil skirt block. Okay, so when you're going to be creating your pencil skirt, it's on this green line at the bottom. That's where you're going to be cutting on. Let's move on to the next sketch block variation. The next sketch block variation we are looking at is the A-line skirt. Okay, for the A-line skirt, you're going to start your measurement still from that straight skirt block. You know, for the pencil skirt, you measured towards the center front. Okay, 2 inches towards the center front, right? Now for the A line, you're going out, you're going away from the center front. So we're going to use 3 inches for the A line skirt variation at the hem. You're measuring away from the center front. This is the mark right there. And then when you're connecting your A line skirt, you are connecting it still to the hip line. Okay, so it comes from still the hip line point and joins that part there. So this is the A line skirt block. Okay, that's it. And then for the A line, we don't just leave it as a sharp pointy seam at the end there. You're going to be measuring about an inch from the hem, an inch, and then connect it from the straight skirt, connect it so it has a curved hem this way. So that's the A-line skirt block. So whichever your choice is, if you're doing the pencil skirt, you follow all the top remains the same for every one of them. You just follow the line, either the green line for the pencil, the black line for the straight, and the blue line for the A line skirt block. So this is the front, and all the measurements will be cut on fold. Let's do the A line skirt block for the back. Okay, so here is our back pattern once again. To do the A-line skirt block, you're measuring 3 inches away from this center back, right about here. And you're going to connect that point to this point right here. Awesome. Do not forget to measure 1 inch from the bottom of the paper, and then use your curve to connect from the end of the straight block. From that end, just curve to that 1 inch mark. So this is your back A line skirt block. Whenever you want to use any of these skirt blocks, all you do is trace it out on another pattern paper, right? So this will just be like the main skirt block you need, and you just trace it out. If you need to your knee length, a midi length, whatever, it's just for you to show that line on your pattern. Okay, you just draw the line on your pattern, and that's where the skirt will stop. All right, so if you have any questions at this point, please do let me know. Okay, so here we have the front pattern and the back pattern that has the pencil skirt block, straight skirt block, A-line skirt block, and these blocks, these skirt patterns can be modified to the length you want, be it mini, midi, or maxi. That's the full length. Also, sewing allowances have been added to each of this. So for the pencil skirt block, you already have your 1 inch sewing allowance included. Straight skirt block, there's already a 1 inch sewing allowance included. A-line skirt block, there's already a 1 inch sewing allowance included. Same goes for the back, and the zipper allowance is also included. Okay, so here it is. We'll then go ahead to use these patterns to create a different skirt variations.